You know, I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's your day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.
Welcome to Above the Garage, a Nick and June, the Handmaid's Tale podcast. Hi, friends. Welcome to the deep dive into season 1, episode 7 of The Handmaid's Tale. This episode is entitled The Other Side, and it is intended for longtime watchers. So if you are a new watcher, go and find our spoiler-free analysis that we released on Monday, and let's do our round of introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Tina.
Hi, I'm Wanda.
Hi, I'm Scarlett.
Hi, I'm Violet.
And I'm Kate. Before we dive in, I just wanted to say, obviously, this is a Luke-heavy episode, and OT is a phenomenal actor that I think plays Luke exactly as Margaret Atwood intended for him to be portrayed in the book. And so any criticism we have of Luke, the character, is exactly that, criticism of a fictional character that was meant to be portrayed that way. Again, OT is just the most fantastic actor and fully earned his Emmy Award nomination for this role earlier this year. Congratulations, OT. Now we will dive into the deep dive. The episode opens again with the car crashing, which you see I think you see the first time in the pilot episode, but now they're going to do a deeper dive into what happens after, which is
they're going to do The Other Side.
There you go. I literally asked earlier, I wonder why it's called The Other Side. And everyone was like, it's obvious, Kate. So yeah, the thing that I noticed new in this rewatch of Crashing the Car, which I talked about in spoiler free, but in case you don't listen to spoiler free longtime fans, which I understand, although we cover different topics, I noticed this time that the license plate in the beginning is R3D 13G. So like that kind of jumped out at me as read the R3D, which is why I Googled it, and then found one website, rosettedelacroix.com, with this whole theory about how the 13G was related to the Illuminati. I'm not saying that's true. I just wanted to source her. But I did notice the red in the license plate, and there's a recurring theme of red words in this episode and show.
I think I've heard Bruce say they focus on details like that. You know, the timeline might be a little sketch, but just like the bus being Scarlet Woods, I think is what it's like, Scarlet Woods nursing home or something like that.
Yeah.
That definitely I think was on purpose. Yeah, assisted living. Yeah, I think that was 100% on purpose. You know, you're not going to reference Scarlet on a show where, you know, women wear red as handmaids.
Oh, okay.
You know, that's to me seems like the kind of
like the Scarlet Letter too.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which
that
is what Scarlett thought this show was.
That's right.
It all comes full circle. So much Scarlett.
Yes, it is.
So June and Hannah are rushing out of the car, and Luke is staying to defend the car. Do you guys have any parallels or?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
The beginning, it felt similar to season 2, episode 10, where well, you know, you think Nick gets shot and June doesn't know if he was hurt. Luke actually gets shot.
Yeah.
Oh,
In
wow.
that moment, you hear the gunfire, and in the instance with Nick, you think he's getting shot, and you know he wasn't. He knocked the gun away. But with Luke, no, he actually got shot. So I wonder if that in that moment in 210 played into June's fear. You know, she heard the gunshot, and last time that happened, where she heard a gunshot, she thought he was dead.
Yeah.
And he, in this instant, you know, with Nick, it wasn't, thank goodness, but you know, with Luke, no, he actually was injured and did almost die. So that made me think of that moment.
That is a good parallel.
I guess
She goes through so many like similar repeated traumas in her life.
Mhm.
Seriously.
I don't know how.
I guess she doesn't know for sure that Luke got shot. She just heard the gunshots, right?
Yes, and that's
the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing of not knowing. Yeah, exactly.
And she assumed he was dead for the past 3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
And I assume at that point in 210, she would have assumed Nick was shot and probably going to die too. I mean, that's what I would have assumed. Like, oh, you know, and then loading up his like lifeless body into the back of that car. I would have been like, oh my God, he's dead. Like, it
I
happened
assumed
again.
he got shot or
Weren't
something.
you like that? That's what I was like.
Although
Yeah.
you can kind of, we're going way too far down this episode, but
Season
you can
2,
sort
episode
of,
10 is what we're talking about.
Yeah,
yeah,
Okay,
you can
go
sort
ahead.
of see where the gun shoots. It like shoots down.
it shoots down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think everybody looked as closely as we did?
No.
But that was probably just me because I was like, did they kill me? Is Nick okay?
Yeah.
I gotta know if Nick is okay. Like,
Yeah.
like,
That's no.
no, because I remember when my mom watched it the first time, she was like, "Did he get shot? Is he hurt?" And I was like, I watched very closely, and I can tell you he's not. But so
Yeah. What other parallels do we have?
So I have another one. So I have here, I guess there is some sort of flashback, and I don't remember where it plays in, but it is somewhere near the beginning. Because I have written down as a tape recorder. So there is a flashback to Hannah and June playing with the tape recorder. And I don't know if this is proven. It was just a theory. I read it on Reddit or something somewhere, but there is a theory that the voiceovers were things she recorded while she was in the cabin. I thought that was interesting. And then also I thought the tape recorder was interesting because it's very reminiscent of how she is going to communicate with Luke.
I know. That's what
And
I wrote down. Yeah.
And season 3, I was like, she's gonna get a tape recorder and she's gonna send the tape to Luke. So
because like in this day and age, how often do any of us see tape recorders?
tape recorders. Yeah.
Even in 2014 or whenever this was, you don't see tape recorders very often anymore. So it was very noticeable to me too.
Yeah.
This time rewatching it, that Hannah's playing with an exact a
tape recorder
of what June's gonna send his next
communication to Luke. Yeah.
The way Luke is in this episode, he doesn't, again, I always say that he's oblivious, not malicious, kind of pushing everything to the side, or maybe kind of having unrealistic expectations of what's going on. Is very, I would have thought that throughout, the 4 seasons or the time that passed, the 4 seasons, he would be a little different once we got to season 4. And he proved me wrong.
Nope.
He pretty much is the same.
Yeah.
Especially when he's dismissive to June and, well, you're here, which is obviously he just wants to go back to the way things were, just like we want to go back to the way things were before COVID. That's just the best example I can use to illustrate that. He just wants to go back and he doesn't understand that there's no going back. Too many things have happened for you to just be able to go back and go to Boston and grab a few beers and watch a game. And
yeah. And I think if he had gone through this episode, as frustrating as it was to see him complacent and not taking the action he needed to for his daughter and his wife, if we'd gotten to season 4 and he changed at all in his behavior, then I would have felt warmer towards the character, even down to like cutting her off when she's talking to Emily and he's like, stop, why are you saying that? And
that paternalistic attitude
Yeah.
towards her.
And that is pretty shocking to me considering what she's been through. And he does want her back. I know that. And yet he's made no effort to change himself or understand her or women, etc. So yeah, I mean,
you even look at how he dealt with Mr. Whitford, the attitude that he gave Mr. Whitford, and then you look at how he dealt with Mark Torello when in episode 7, season 4, when Mark was suggesting that June stay there and debrief.
Agreed.
So
yeah, and the way even like when he told him to get in the trunk and they were like at first aghast and then okay, like June was like yeah, and they were like okay, and then as they were walking around to the trunk, Luke's like shaking his head like he's annoyed at Whitford, and I'm like, you should be like pissed off at yourself,
right?
If anything, and grateful that you're being afforded an opportunity to get in a trunk right now.
Yeah,
and like just his annoyance with Whitford.
But don't you guys think it's ironic that those things that we pick up, that are minimal, quote unquote, I mean, for me, they're not minimal, but for a lot of people are minimal. There's things that you just, oh, well, that's the way he is. Oh, well, like at least he's a good father. Or, women tend to make excuses or justifications for those things because there are things that are more important in a way. So it's very hard to try to explain this to people that are maybe not going to see it as something that is wrong, because it's not malicious, it's not violent, but it does have a consequence, and again, it's just the result of being in a patriarchal society. And we do it too, like women do it too. Like I said in spoiler free, like the first time I saw Luke with a gun, I was like, why is he such an idiot? He doesn't even know how to shoot a gun. And obviously we discussed that not everybody knows how to shoot a gun. So, but we as women, as we've seen in many movies and many romantic shows, the man is supposed to come in Rambo style and save you. And in this episode, we've seen actually two women handle the gun a lot better than the man, which in this case was Luke. June does it, and what's the name? Zoe. What's the name of the?
Oh, Zoe.
Yeah. Zoe does it. A lot better than he does.
I think that Luke is being given all the blame, and June deserves a little bit too.
Okay.
You know what?
That's
and
my point.
I felt that way too, Kate,
Mhm.
until I realized that she had no autonomy at all. I mean, I thought, well, I'll just pick my kid up and go. She couldn't even move freely.
I feel like she could have pushed Luke harder though. Like if she, because I don't think Luke would have just like not listened if she had been like, no, seriously, we're leaving. Like we're leaving. Like, I feel like she could have been more demanding of what she wanted.
In the book, it said that she wanted to argue with him sometimes, but she realized that she needed him. So, I mean, I felt a lot like Kate felt. Like, why the heck didn't June do more? But by the time she realized what was going on, she couldn't push him like that because she needed him. She couldn't, turn him against her. That's why she probably didn't say a lot to him.
I think that's exactly I think that's exactly how she was thinking about it, but I don't think that she should have thought about it that way. I think she should have thought about it like, I need to protect my daughter. I need to push Luke harder.
Yeah.
She shouldn't have been as complacent maybe before Gilead. Like I get what you're trying to say.
I definitely relate a lot to that though, because I just feel like I would be the last person with a gun because I would just be like, do we really need to go to guns? Like, really?
I'm with you, Violet. That's me too.
And I'm the total opposite. I'll be like, let me get a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if I had your training and stuff and your background, I would be like that. But just because I've literally never even touched a gun before, it's like,
it can't be scary. When I first touched it, I was nervous about it too. But then I realized that, I had more power than I thought. I actually was given the weapon more power. Like, it's me that's controlling it.
Right. It's a very good way.
Yeah, I think it's more just like a general like feeling of civilians having guns and me not loving that.
Right.
So it's kind of that stops me more so than anything else.
Well, what happened to Erin? Right. So at the end of the episode, it's implied that she is living with Luke, right? Because he says the heat is on. You don't go back home. She was in was it early season 2, the scene with Moira and Luke, and they were talking about making breakfast or something.
Must be the Fruit Loops.
The Fruit Loops,
yes, blessed be the Fruit Loops.
That was episode 3 of season 2.
Right, and then she's just gone now. Right, I mean, were her whereabouts ever explained? Because now he's living with. I mean, obviously now in season 4, he's living with Moira and Holly, but Erin is no longer there.
No.
Did they ever say where she went? Did any?
No.
I don't think so.
In real life, she had a baby.
Oh, she did. Okay.
So never mind.
I follow her on Instagram.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
You just knew that ATF right off the top.
Trying to make it easy for yourself on this episode.
Yeah, I don't want to do any fact checking.
That's why I asked.
I was whole episode.
Because I couldn't remember them ever saying what happened to her, and I don't think they did. So she just kind of, moved out on her own. I guess good for her.
Okay, so I have a question, something that it's kind of been thinking about for a while. So like in episode 4-9, when Nick puts on his wedding ring.
Oh, how are we talking about
I'm
that?
I'm sorry. I apologize. But it's something that's bothering me about when they panned over to June and she oddly puts up her hand to her face twice, which she doesn't have a wedding ring on it, which made me think that Gilead voided out all the marriages, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see any in this episode. We haven't seen any like legal papers, birth certificates, marriage certificates.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, are they on paper still married?
That's a great question. I had wondered that too.
No, it's a really good
I think no.
I think no.
Because everything they only have 2 states left, Hawaii and Alaska. So everything had to be destroyed by Gilead.
Mm-hmm.
So where is their marriage license?
They don't
I
have
think they're
one.
not.
They're not
Yeah, I
married.
think they're not technically married anymore.
Yeah,
Can't
would
be-
They'd have to
would
get
it
a new license.
We were talking about when they were at the border getting ready to cross, and somebody mentioned, I think it was Violet, said they use drones now.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
All I could think
Yeah.
about was Nick saying the eyes have tactical control of the border. So does that mean Nick, has access to drones and night vision and all sorts of fun stuff, stuff he can use now as the commander of the eyes at the border.
Unfortunately, I can never imagine Nick like having fun with toys like drones. He's too goddamn
Yeah.
serious.
That's
Like,
true.
I
He
just
is
can't
he is
picture
very
it.
serious.
I
But
would like I'd like to see that.
I wasn't sure if he was commander of the eyes when I heard that line, but
Mhm.
then I think it was on after the show or the show that they do after the episodes air or
Yeah.
an interview I saw. I think it was Yvonne Stravosky that said, well, now he's commander of the eyes. Like it was one of the members of the cast that said it. Like so I
Really?
was like, okay, yeah.
I did have another point. So the
Okay.
note that June sent to Luke was,
Mhm.
I love you so much. Save Hannah.
Mhm.
I don't think, this is just my opinion, I don't think he did much to save Hannah at that
Mm-mm.
point. And the reason I say that is because, and I can't remember, I think it was the first episode of season 3. Luke has that like a little box. I think it was, or maybe it was the first episode of season 2, but he had like a little box and it was full of information about Waterford.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with Hannah. It was all about Waterford. And then, when the Waterfords came to Canada, it was not about where's my daughter. When Nick came to him at the bar, he was not, hey, do you know anything about my daughter? It was
Mhm.
all about Waterford and June. So June sent him this note and he's not focusing on Hannah. He's focused on her.
Mhm.
She specifically said, save Hannah. And I did not see him doing any work to save Hannah. It was
Yeah.
all focused on Waterford and June and getting, I don't know, some sort of revenge on Waterford, I guess. I'm not sure what his goal was, but
I
didn't
might be
think he was doing.
mistaken, but I think he asks Nick, I'm not sure, at the bar, like, do you know where my daughter is? I don't know why I have
Yeah,
this
he definitely
idea.
did. Yeah.
He
He
does,
did.
but it's almost
Okay.
an afterthought because Nick comes up to him and he's telling him about June, she's pregnant, it's Waterford's, and then Luke is like, get out, and he starts pushing him, and Nick is like, okay, I'm gonna leave, and he, no, wait. Well, do you know about Hannah? Like, I feel like if it was me, my first thing would have been like, do you know where my daughter is? It almost was like an afterthought. Oh,
Yeah.
well, maybe I shouldn't have just pushed this guy away,
But to be fair,
Well-
Nick came in and said, like, I know June, she's my friend, she's pregnant, like pretty quickly.
That's
So
true. I'm just
but I totally agree with you because that's been my overall like impression of him through all of even season 4. When he says, like, did she choose this to Moira about June? Like, no, your daughter's still there.
Yeah. He never thought that, well, maybe June stayed to get Hannah. He was
Yeah.
thinking maybe June stayed to be with Nick.
Right. And even when
Right.
she's back and he's like, you're here, Nicole's here, this is a
Yeah.
miracle. Like he's still blocking out the, very large problem that his daughter is stuck in there.
Can I just mention something like, because I'm always saying that Luke is selfish. And people may say, well, why do you say it's selfish when he's taking care of another man's child? Well, I can even see the selfishness in that because Luke has always wanted to be a father. And when Hannah was taken away from him, that left a void. Nicole is filling that void right now. He initially didn't accept her because he thought she was a product of rape. But eventually, I guess he realized what this can do for him. He can be a father. He's even in episode 10, he said to June, like you said, Kate, you're here. Nicole's here. We need to count our blessings. I'm not saying that he doesn't want to get his daughter back, but right now he's content with having Nicole and June so that he can be that family that he wanted to get back.
Yeah, that's exactly, Tina. That's what you were saying, like made me, I've always kind of felt that way. And it's been hard to pinpoint exactly, but it's just, she doesn't have the urgency even to find Hannah that I would expect of a father.
Yeah, I agree with you guys, but I thought it was interesting that like at the beginning of this episode, he seemed like pretty much only focused on Hannah. Like even when like the car wrecked and stuff, and he was like barely checking if June was okay, and then he was just like, "Is she okay?" I mean, I guess that's how you would be, but it just seemed like he was a lot more interested in Hannah, and like even in his memories, it was all like focused on her. And I don't know.
Maybe it's what we see that he sees, you know, like, and at the beginning of the episode, you know, Hannah is with them. So, you know, he's checking on her, you know, just, I mean, obviously June is a little bit more concerned, you know, with the Benadryl and stuff. And he's holding on to the memories and, you know, the album and the bracelet and the sonogram pictures. And then once he gets to Canada, he doesn't really see either Hannah or June. And then he finds out that June's alive. And then when he sees Nick, you know, he's talking about June. So then he kind of like everything focuses on June. It's not like he forgot about Hannah, but maybe, I don't know, what he has visible right now or the information that he has is June. So maybe that's why he focused on June.
Yeah, that can make some sense.
That makes sense.
I mean,
And
I
you're
think
right about the photo albums and stuff. That's obviously Hannah's very important to him. So.
I mean,
I think
I don't
that's
know.
kind of a thing that he does in general is sort of like, I mean, it's a coping mechanism that a lot of people do, but just where you kind of like, just like an out of sight, out of mind almost like thing.
I mean, I honestly think that he waited 7 years out of guilt. I think he feels like extremely, extremely, extremely guilty and at fault. And I think he said it in an interview. OT says, you know, Luke failed protecting his family. Like he didn't know how to handle a gun. He didn't get out in time. So he, like, that's the way the character is supposed to be presented, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just the constant. I mean, we see it throughout all the seasons. And I think that, like I mentioned in the spoiler free, there are very specific instances in this episode where you see that he realized just how much he fucked up. Like when he finds out that Whitford had died, you know, he looks at June. June knows she's screwed, and you know, the way he looks at her is like, yeah, this is real. Like he realized in that moment just the severity of the situation. He didn't realize before, you know, with everything that happened, but in that moment he realized I should have done things differently. And then when Aaron freaks out in the bus, you know, and they explain to him what they're doing to the fertile woman, it's when he, like, that for me was when he saw June and Aaron, like that's what's going to happen to June. So I think that those two scenes are, you know, when he realizes that he fucked up and he's just carrying that guilt throughout, you know, all the seasons. Like that's why he didn't want to go to the prayer vigil, or you know, why he made that question, like if June chose that. I mean, it's all about guilt and grief and him being angry at himself, not being angry at June.
Can I just mention the relationship between June and Luke that I found out when doing some research for ATF, that it took 2 years for him to get away from Annie. And during those 2 years, June really fell in love with him passionately. They had a passionate affair where they met at a hotel, often the hotel that's now Jezebel's.
Wait, for real? It is?
Yeah.
No way.
Yep.
This is amazing. I think it's amazing.
It's just, I do a lot of cross-referencing of the book. So,
wow.
But they enjoyed each other's company, and June loved Luke deeply. That's what it said.
Mm-hmm.
June loved Luke deeply. I don't know. And I guess he loved her too, but.
Didn't say that.
Yeah, it didn't. Initially, their relationship was equal, right? He did the cooking, she did whatever. And he didn't see any reason for feminist activism. He just didn't see it. Yeah, he didn't see any. And he would tease June's mom, who was a feminist activist.
Mm-hmm.
And then once Gilead takes away women's rights, as you know, I think Kate read last week, that June felt a shift in the relationship. She felt like, you know, they at once they were each other's, but now she's his. And then there was times where he acted really paternalistic towards her. I mean, she would talk to her husband about losing her job. And he, one time in the book, actually shushed her, said, "Hush, you know, I'll take care of you." And she felt that their relationship would. But what I found interesting is that they had a passionate affair for 2 years. It took him 2 years.
Like, that's huge information that I did not understand.
Yeah.
Wow. So he was with Annie for 2 years.
She was, he was fighting getting a divorce for 2 years.
Okay.
And it took 2 years to get away from Annie.
Huh.
and get married to June. So that makes her even younger than I thought she was when they
Oh my
met.
God, yeah.
Well, I think that's what her mother was bothered about too, because she was so young and getting involved with Luke.
I think he maybe didn't think in his life activism or feminism wasn't necessary because he wasn't sexist. He doesn't believe that he's sexist. Like,
Exactly. Yep.
sure, you know, I'll take care of you. Like the way that I saw that scene when he says, I'll take care of you, is I don't really go with this, but this is what we have. And yes, I have your money, but whenever you want to use it, I'm going to give it to you.
Mhm.
Because I don't, you know, like you're still controlling it.
Yeah.
Even you have no choice because that's the law. So
Mhm.
he believed that he wasn't doing anything wrong. So that's why he thought those things were useless, because the times had already changed and we have our rights and we are equal and we have it better than other women in other places in the world. So that's really just, you know, you girls just want more is what they usually say.
Mhm.
So I think that's what he believed, and that's why he acts the way he acts.
Yeah. That's the conflict between June and her mom.
Yes.
June actually didn't see any reason to fight for women's rights because that had already been done already. So why do we need to do that? And her mother was mad because June was so indifferent. So that's the conflict between the daughter and the mother.
But she realized later on, obviously,
Yeah,
what
she
her
did.
mother was doing. Like, I think she kind of resented her mom a little bit. Like
Yeah.
when we see when she's giving birth to Hannah, she says something like, you know, where she's not going to get here, and she does because
Mhm.
you know her mother was always busy with her activism instead of like maybe being with June, but she was sacrificing her time with June so that
Yeah.
June can have a better future, and that's what June's doing now.
Yeah.
She's sacrificing her time with her daughters so they can have a better future. I like that dynamic. It's going
Yeah.
to be interesting to talk about when we get there.
I just think that that's why too June chose a man like Luke because of the way she was raised by her mother. She didn't have a
Yes.
man in her life. You know, her mom didn't want a man in her life. So June wanted to have that type of family with a husband and a wife and a kid, you know, and I think that's why she actually chose a man like Luke.
She didn't know anything better. She met Luke, you know, and she, you know, she fell in love. Luke didn't really treat her bad, except the
No.
crush that I didn't know. Luke never like he didn't yell at her. He didn't,
No.
you know, like it was just a normal relationship of what you expect and what society expects you to find in a man. So
Right.
she fell in love. Plus, it was something that she had to fight for because he was married.
Mhm.
So she won because you know he chose her. You know, women love to be chosen.
Yeah.
So she didn't know anything better. So she thought that was the love of her life. Ironically, she gets to Gilead and she sees something entirely different.
Right. It just always makes me mad when we do stuff like that to each other, you know? I wouldn't think to take another woman's husband. June wanted what she wanted and she went after it. And that's June.
Well, I mean, he probably told her that, you know, the usual, the classic, they're separated, I'm not happy, I love you, you know, blah, 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 blah.
My other notes were just that I think that with what we know now, that handing over that wedding ring truly signified the end of his marriage. Getting on the boat.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
right.
And also, I mentioned this is spoiler free, but waiting for Luke in that same scene when Zoe took Luke into the church to show him what happens to people that try to stand up against them. Waiting for Luke in that scene also got a lot of their group killed when they got back to get on the boat. And then that reminded me of 4-3 when they wait for June to get off to get Lydia. And unfortunately, some of our handmaid friends die.
Oh, yeah.
And then
That's true.
lastly, my note was just like getting on the boat to Canada unwillingly was June and Luke parallel. Both of them having a hard time getting on that boat with Hannah still there. Even though, like we talked about earlier, it surprises me that Luke says in a later episode, did she choose this about June? I would think that he would understand better because he didn't want to get on that boat to Canada. That, yeah, June was staying in Gilead to try to protect Hannah. It's hard to leave anybody behind there.
Right.
Okay, so I think that's a wrap on season 1, episode 7 of The Handmaid's Tale. Thank you for joining us. If you are a longtime watcher, you should still listen to our episode 8 next week, spoiler free on Monday, and another deep dive next Wednesday. Thanks for listening.
You know, I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's her day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.